I trained to be an actor. And then I stopped acting. And I'd like to tell you why. Hi, how are you? So when I was in college, I majored in theater and acting. And then for a few years after college, I did stage acting in Portland. And it was a lot of fun, and I'd like to tell you about that magical time. So the first acting I ever did, I was a peacock in the church Christmas play. And my mom made me this awesome costume. And I don't know why there was a peacock in the Christmas play, but there I was, and it was fun. And then the next time I acted was in 6th grade, and my teacher had just gotten a video camera. She was all excited to use it, so she had the class. We all performed an episode of the Twilight Zone called Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. And she filmed all the scenes, we had costumes, and then I played one of the humanoid aliens at the end, looking at everybody going bonkers in the streets and pontificating about why. And the teacher was like, "Oh, that was really good," after she filmed it. And that gave me some encouragement. But I didn't think about acting again until just a few months before I graduated high school. I was in the journalism department, and I was one of the editors of the school newspaper, and I was all prepared to be a journalism reporter for a newspaper and study that, and that was what I was going to do. And then I also had a bunch of friends who were in the drama department, and we would hang out all the time, and they told me about auditions coming up for this play called The Adventures of Nicholas Nickleby. And for some reason, they were all auditioning, and so I decided to audition too. And I got cast as one of the lead characters called Smike. And it was a 7-hour production. Literally, the play happened for 3 hours. It broke for a dinner break where people ate for an hour, and then they sat back down and watched another 3 hours of the play. It was a 7-hour production in high school. It was just bonkers. And that was my introduction to an actual acting. And I just can't believe the instructor did such an epic theater production, but people seemed to like it. They had to sit on these horrible wooden seats, but I was having a great time. And Smike was a simpleton character, and I really don't remember much about the character. But I remember I had such a great time acting with everybody, and the production was fun, and the rehearsals were fun, and I made lots of friends, and people seemed to like my performance. And at the end of the year, I won Best Actor for the department that year. And so when I started community college later that year after I graduated, I was going to be a journalism major, and then a week before school started, I changed my major to theater and acting. And so I went to community college and studied acting, and I acted in 2 plays. One was Girl Crazy, where I played cowboy number 3, where I just kind of hung my head like this and danced with my legs, and it was funny. Anyway, you had to be there. And then and then I performed Benedict from Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. So that was fun production. And then I went to University of Portland. And so there I joined the theater department and made lots of new friends, and I played several roles. Well, in theater department, I studied everything. I studied acting, but I also studied lighting design and costumes and set building and directing. And in directing class, I directed a scene from Rebel Without a Cause because I was a huge James Dean fan. And I just learned every aspect of theater, makeup and everything. But my focus was acting, and so I got to act in a lot of different productions. And we had to audition, of course, for each of the things. But I got cast initially as, I think my first role was Dog in Tennessee Williams' Orpheus Descending. And then I played a chorus member in The Mystery of Edwin and Drood, the musical. And then I played Bartley. I had to do an Irish accent for, and I so apologize for this. Riders to the Sea was a 1-act play. I had to play Bartley. And I died at the end. And then what did we do? I was also Jonathan in Oh Dad, Poor Dad, Mama's Hung You in the Closet, and I'm Feeling So Sad. And that was the big role the first big role I got to do at the University of Portland. And that was a lot of fun. And then I played Tullus Aufidius in Shakespeare's play Coriolanus. He was the villain. And then I played the chaplain in Brecht's play Mother Courage. And then I got to play Hamlet, which I talked about in one of my previous videos. And that was, of course, the highlight of my college acting. It was just, I got to play Hamlet, for crying out loud. It was just an amazing opportunity. I had to memorize all those lines, but I got to be on stage and just really act my ass off. It was so much fun. And I talked about in the other video that, while we were doing the sword fight in one performance, my pumpkin pants came undone and I had to sword fight while holding up my pants. But luckily that only happened once. And then the last character that I performed at the University of Portland was Tartuffe in Tartuffe, and I had this amazing wig and I grew a mustache, and that was a lot of fun. It was a different kind of complex poetry in the language. But then also, while I was going to college, I got to perform downtown for a professional theater company in the production of Bent, and I played a really evil soldier. And but I got to act with all these professional actors, and it wasn't that different of an experience, but it was definitely different than acting in college, acting with all these professional actors who had been acting for years. And that's something interesting that I learned, is that, whether you're acting in a high school production or, whether you're acting for a professional theater company, and it's probably this way on Broadway too, the process is the same. You get the script, you learn your character, you go through rehearsals, and then you perform for an audience. And it's that same process, whether you're in high school, whether you're on Broadway. It's just performing. The process is the same. And I just found that really interesting, that, the only difference is, the skill and talent you're working with yourself and with the professionals you're working with. But I just found that really interesting, that the whole process was the same, no matter what level you're at. Anyway, so I graduated college, and then I got to act with some other professional theater companies in Portland. We did a production of Cat Among the Pigeons, and I played the character of Ignace de Fontenay, who had really bad breath, and so he breathed very heavily when he talked, and everybody was like, "Oh, the bad breath." And my hair was done up. Really, everybody had really weird hairstyles, and it was a farce, and it was really fun acting with a bunch of professional actors. And then I worked also as a tech person for some other theater companies. I did sound for Trojan Women. I did lighting for Breaking the Code at Portland Center State. Performing Arts Center? Portland Performing Arts Center? Something like that. And then I think I ran sound for some other companies. And then I auditioned. Somebody told me about an audition, and I auditioned for Kaiser Permanente Hospital's educational theater program, and I got cast. And so for a year and a half, I worked for Kaiser Permanente's educational theater program. And what we did is we traveled around to all the elementary schools and the high schools in the Portland or Upper Oregon, Lower Washington area, and we would perform educational theater shows. So for the elementary school kids, we would put on this show with big puppets, and we all had to learn the entire script. So we each could play a different puppet. And, we would switch up characters depending on, what day of the week it was. And so we played these puppets, and taught kids had to put their bike helmet on and wear their seatbelt and all this kind of safety stuff. And my favorite character was called Scumble. And Scumble was a drug-pushing vulture. And Scumble came out on the stage at the end and had this wingspan of about 15 feet. And Scumble would come out and open up his wings and offer the character of Rob, who was the main character. He would offer some cocaine. There was a bag of flour and a giant joint of marijuana in the inside this wing. And on this side was a syringe and diet pills, and would offer rob the main character some drugs, and Rob would say, "No, no, Scumble, I don't want drugs." And so we taught the kids not to use drugs. And the Scumble would say, "Okay." And Scumble would close his wings and march off stage. But that costume was so difficult to get into. You had to put on the pants, and then you had these big floppy claw feet that were like clown shoes. And then you had to literally get inside the costume and have the wingspan. And then you had, the head would be a stick that you would stick into into your chest, into a harness. And so you'd come out like this. And it was just, it was an insane, I kind of consider it the highlight of my acting career. And so we did that. And then, for the high schools, we would tour around giving educational theater about HIV prevention. And so we would travel around to all the high schools with the sound system, and we would come out and perform a play where the character contracts HIV and goes in for testing, and then tell the audience what this experience was like. And it really affected the audience. We were performing in assemblies for high schools. And then afterward the show, we would do a question and answer session. And then we'd put all the equipment back in the truck and drive this big truck back to Portland every day. And every day it was acting and traveling and performing in front of a new audience and providing important information to people. And it was also a really good paycheck. I mean, to get that good of a paycheck and that steady of a job for acting right out of college, that was great. It was an amazing job. But for some reason, I wanted more, and I didn't know what I wanted more of. I was starting to think that I didn't want to really act anymore. But I did one more performance before I left Portland. I acted in the Scottish play. And I played the Scottish king, and I don't like saying the name of the play because I'm really superstitious, and a lot of bad things have happened when performing this play, so much so that the director was so superstitious as much as me that he brought in a priest to throw holy water and bless the stage before the production, because so many bad things happen when everyone performs this play. And so the only bad thing that really happened is that one performance, I'm giving my big speech at the end because I'm playing the king, and then one of the other actors is supposed to shoot me at the end, but the gun went off early. And I'm wearing this bulletproof vest, and I acted like I was shot, and I was like, oh my God, I got to finish my speech. And so I start, and I try to finish my grand speech, but then the actor just like finished me off, just start shooting the gun. And so I had to just die early at the end of that production. And so that was really the only thing that went wrong during that production, thank goodness. So anyway, but while I was performing the Scottish play, I remember backstage there was a flyer for open auditions for a movie. And I'd never auditioned for a movie before, and it was called Primal Fear. And it was going to star Richard Gere, and there was just this nationwide hunt for the actor that was going to play opposite Richard Gere. And so I thought that would be fun to audition for a movie. So I memorized the sides, I went in, and I sat in front of the camera, and the lady gave me the lines, and I did the best I could at acting, and then I never got called back, and obviously I never got the role. Edward Norton got the role, and then later I remember hearing in interviews from Matt Damon and Ben Affleck that, you know, everybody auditioned for that role. Professional actors, college actors, everybody tried to get that role because that was going to be a career-making role. And so anyway, that was fun. That was the only time I've ever auditioned for a movie. And then after that, you know, after I performed the last stage play, after my audition for the movie, I moved to California and started out in Oakland, and I was going to audition for the educational theater program with the Kaiser in Oakland. And I remember driving to that audition, getting to the parking lot, and turning the car around and just deciding, I don't want to do this. I don't want to audition again. I don't want to do acting right now. And I went back home, and I have never acted again since, and that was 1995. And since then, I've just kind of lived. And I just lived, man. I felt lost. I had to explore stuff. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I didn't want to act at that time. And so I explored, what else did I explore? I went to photography school. I did temping, working for various businesses in downtown San Francisco. And then I tried writing songs, and then I wrote a romantic comedy novel, and I moved back up to Oregon and tried working for property management companies. And then I started Instagram and doing social media, and now I'm doing YouTube. And so the conclusion that I came to, because for years I felt really guilty that I quit acting. I got a lot of DVDs with movies behind me. And I think to myself sometimes, if I would have continued acting, would I have been able to act in some of these movies? And, that's haunted me. I felt really guilty that I shouldn't have given it up. But a few years ago in therapy, I realized the reason I quit acting is because I didn't want to be characters anymore. I just wanted to be myself. I didn't, actors, they got to lose themselves into a role. And I lost the interest in doing that. I didn't want to be anyone except myself. And I just wanted to be me. And the thing about in the 90s, if you just wanted to be yourself and be in show business, you were either a news reporter or a comedian or a game show host. And I didn't want to do any of those things. And so there was nothing for me to do until, the 2000s and 2010s came around, and the whole social media thing took off, and posting content and making videos. And I wish I would have been, born in the 80s or in the 90s so I could, be in my 20s during all this YouTube time. And I feel like I'm late to the party, but better late than never, I guess. I don't know. I'm having fun now. And all this actor training, I guess, comes in handy because I get to be relaxed in front of a camera, and I get to have fun, and I get to be myself, which sounds narcissistic, but it's not. I just wanted to be me. I had just no interest in becoming a character or anything like that. So that was a really good revelation to find out about myself, that I shouldn't feel guilty, that I just lost interest in it and I walked away, and that's okay. And I wanted to say that if you lose interest in something and you walk away from it, but you feel guilty that you walked away from it, you probably walked away from it for a good reason that you may not consciously understand, and you may not totally understand until years later. But you got to trust your instincts. I mean, the only thing you can do is just, what should I do now? What feels right? I mean, that's all we can ever do, right? Is just do whatever feels right at the time. And if it doesn't feel right, you don't do it. If I had gone into act, you have to, I think, if you're going to be a professional actor, you got to crave acting like a person with their hair on fire craves water. You just got to want it. And I didn't want it. I did when I was in college. I couldn't imagine doing anything else other than acting. I was going to go to Los Angeles or New York, and I was going to be a successful actor. And then I lost interest. And I can't believe it happened, but I did. And that's okay, because I got to do a lot of other stuff. I got to live in San Francisco. I got to explore photography and lyric writing and music and social media and all these other things. And so that's fine. I trusted my instincts, and I just kind of went with them. And, I guess that's all we can do. And so that's my acting story. So I did a bunch of productions, and it was fun. And I still love movies and show business and entertainment. And who knows what the future will bring? Maybe I'll start acting again. You never know. Anyway, thank you for watching this. And if you have any comments, I love to read your comments and any thoughts about this. And if you have any questions, go ahead and ask in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you. And anyway, thanks for watching this. I really appreciate it.